This is my 2016 CRF 250L. The bike is actually completely stock, pretty much, besides the rear tail light here, which is a DRC Edge, and I've had to install it after I broke my other one off. And if you actually do own the CRF 250L, you'll notice nothing sticks out from the back, so I quite like that. And you can use stock indicators on it, they just bolt on there. There's another hole up in there, so I quite like those. You can see it there. So it just takes out having that big clunky tail light hanging out. The other one was quite large. Stock exhaust. I've got Michelin AC10 on the back. This one's starting to wear down quite a bit, but compared to the stock tyre, you can see that this one is quite a bit grippier. It's a lot more knobby. Like even the Edge ones here. I did use these a bit more though, because I was getting a lot more sideways. You can see on this one I haven't really had it leaning over much when I go around corners, whereas this one I sort of did a bit more. The only other changes I've done really here is the hand guards, and they're just the Race Tech ones with they got like the full brace around there. And then you can't actually see it, but the 13 tooth sprocket is in there, and that's with the stock chain, and we just had to tighten it up a bit. So this actually is the old sprocket here. This is the 14 tooth that comes stock on the bike, and the thing about the 13 tooth is they don't come with this little plastic or a rubber actually. This little rubber sort of padding on each side of the sprocket. And if anyone's worried about like the sprocket being loud on the 13 tooth without having that, because I think that's what it's for, noise cancelling, don't worry about it, because I haven't noticed a difference in it, and the bike's been running fine and had no problems with it, so can't really fault that. Other than just those few changes, I've just got a few stickers on it. Those are just cheap ones from eBay, and yeah, nothing too drastic to it. I do plan to do the exhaust, hopefully an FMF pipe, but if I want to spend a little bit more money, I'll go for a more expensive one. I'll do the header as well, and hopefully make it go a bit better. I'm not sure whether I'll do the EJK mod yet, with some things like some different mirrors would be nice. Yeah, I'm just not sure. I use it a lot of, like for a lot of on-road use, and then I like to use it off-road as well. So it's, at the moment, it's a good mix. So a few good things about this bike. I'd have to say, first of all, it's the price. I picked mine up for 6,200 Australian dollars. So work that out in American dollars, it's pretty cheap for what it is. I was really happy with that for 6.2, and I've just, ever since I bought it, it's been an amazing bike. And you just can't, you can say it's not the best off-road bike, you can say it's not the best on-road dual sport bike, but for 6.2 you can't really complain about it. Quite noticeable about this bike compared to a lot of other dual sports is just how well planted it is on the ground. It is quite a heavy bike, it's 140 kilos, but you don't really feel like you're riding a dirt bike, and that's mainly because of the weight. But it's not something where when you go off-road it really limits you. I've ridden this thing in soft sand very recently actually, and while it's not a motocross bike, it still performs quite well, and you can still do a lot of the tracks and stuff you do on a normal bike. It's very, very tame, and you're not going to get the same response as you would out of a motocross bike or something just mainly purpose for off-road use. And just a follow-up on that, the bike is just so easy to ride, it's incredible. This was my first, well, I wouldn't say real bike, but before this I'd only had Chinese bikes, and like Chinese pit bikes, and this was just so easy to get on and ride. Like I'd done my bike course, and I'd ridden a CB125, and they're quite a small bike, and this was considerably bigger. But I had no troubles getting on it, riding it, and learning to ride on it and get comfortable with it. So if you're a learner like I am, I definitely recommend this bike. It's just amazing for the price and for how easy it is to ride, and for the amount of things you can do on it. It'll go anywhere, really. And if you want to do a few mods to it, you can make it go much faster and be much more responsive, and it's just really going to do whatever you want. I wouldn't quite say I love the seat on this bike, and I still do get quite uncomfortable travelling long distances, but this seat compared to motocross bike seats is just so comfortable, and you can see the size in it. It's just so much bigger. Like motocross seats are probably only, on motocross bikes probably only this big, whereas you've got, this huge seat, which makes it really good to ride on the road. Now, I'm not much of a genius on engines, but this has a CBR 250RR motor in it, and although you can probably see it's slanted quite forwards, which makes it very top heavy, it's a really good motor to have in these bikes because they're so oriented for on-road use. And I think that's probably what makes me really like this bike, because I'm primarily using it on the road. I don't have to give up having that the orientation towards street use, but yet I can still take it off-road. And yeah, like I said, I'm not a genius on this, but just the way it does perform doing both, I can't tell you why it's good, but I can just say it is. And just other features they put on these as well. Like you wouldn't get these on a motocross bike if you was going to convert it over. I don't know even if the WRs and stuff have this on it, but you got foot pegs there for a passenger. I'm not 100% sure what these are, but I'd assume these are for passengers to hold on to or to get up on the bike. I can imagine it would make it quite easy. Helmet lock here, which is really good. I use that nearly every time I go shopping. These bolts here, while they do look a bit ugly when you don't have anything on there, it's quite easy just to slap a rack on there and away you go. You can put bags in there, and I put bags in here without using a rack. So if you're worried about carting gear, you got plenty of room, and it's very easy. Dash cluster on here. So as you can see, you get quite a good cluster there. So high beam indicators, whatnot. You've got 3 trips. So at the moment I've got 8,600 kilometers exactly. You got the time underneath, and then if you press this button here to the side, you're going to see trip A, trip B, then back to normal 1. Your speed, which can be changed into miles per hour. I've got mine at kilometers because I'm in Australia. And a fuel gauge here, and if I just turn this off, you can see that little red bar is still there. When that gets to that there, it means you've got, I believe, 1.5 litres left. So it's just a good feature. Some bikes, they don't have fuel gauges on them, like road trails, so it's really handy to have it on this. And along with the fuel, you've got a lockable fuel cap, which, I mean, if you're doing a lot of riding in the city and stuff like that, you might want to have, or just in case someone's going to steal your fuel. It's not a big inconvenience to get out. And what I like about that is your key. Some people might not like this, but once you unlock it, your key actually stays in there until it goes back on. And to put that back on, you just have to give it a good push down. Just needs a good push. I couldn't figure that out the first time I took it to fill it up. A few downsides to the bike. I'll say the exhaust and the weight of it now. This will be the first thing I cover. It's very heavy, and it's very front heavy. and if you love doing wheelies, it does make it hard. It's doable, and people can do them well on these bikes. Not me, if you've seen my other video, but it is very front heavy. And in the sand, that does have quite an impact on your riding. But other than that, you can pretty much, like, trail riding and stuff is still really easy on it, and it'll still go, it'll still, you know, wheelie up on tracks and stuff like that. You just have to get used to riding it, and just remember it's not a motocross bike, remember what you paid for it. Now onto the exhaust. It is a really big, really heavy exhaust. It's got this ugly cover on it. It's big, it's bold. It's just, yeah, and it just sounds, I'll turn it on and it just sounds shit. Sounds like a lawnmower. So that was a cold start, but it's just really whiny. Don't really like how it sounds, but it's just not. They need to put a better pipe on these out of the factory, or have it as a factory option, because I'd pay that extra, you know, $500 or however much they would charge to put a different exhaust and a better header and shit on it, just to make it sound and go better. I've been told they're just very restricted, and I just don't see the point. I'd rather that performance upgrade, and especially for a heavy bike like this, it just sort of needs it. So one thing I forgot to mention, which is a good pro to this bike, would be the toolbox. Now usually in here I'd keep some tools, cable ties, stuff like that. I've got a spare chain link, but I gave that to someone with a I believe it was a 400EX. I'm not sure, but the chain broke on their bike, so I lent them mine, and that got that bike going again. Yeah, that's just really handy to have. And I think they might have those on the WRs, but it's just something, you know, it's always handy to have those tools on you. And if it breaks, like, I wouldn't expect this bike to break down, but if it ever does, or if someone else ever does, you've got the tools there, and it doesn't, you know, it doesn't stick out. It's not ugly, so it's not a big issue. Now, I don't have the issue, but one thing I really didn't like about this bike was the rear tail light. And if you haven't picked yourself up one of these bad boys, the DRC Edge tail light kits, I would definitely do it. I think you can get them for about under $100, and they're perfect. They're small, you can use stock indicators if you want. Yeah, just really easy to install and use, and cheap too, and just makes the bike look a lot better. And if you do a lot of off-road riding like me, it just takes a lot of this space, because usually the other one comes down, you know, like here-ish, and it just takes a lot of that space away from it and moves it all up, which I quite like about it. And if you're not using an L plate like I have to, you're going to find it looks really good on there. So that wraps up my walk around and review of my Honda CRF 250L. Overall, it's a great beginner's bike, and especially for the price point. So if you're looking to pick one of these things up, definitely do it. If you think that you're not going to be doing, if you think you're going to be doing a lot of road riding, but still want a very capable dual sport bike, then this is the bike for you. And at that price point, you can't go wrong with this thing, and it will not disappoint. But if you are looking for something more off-road oriented, I would look at more of the dual sport enduro bikes, and things like the WRs or the KTMs and stuff like that. But yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoyed. This has been Left Side Ride, and this is my CRF 250L.